something greater beyond them. Okay? So keep that in mind. Another sign appeared, a great red dragon. And by the way, the Greek word here is Draco. It means dragon. The same Greek word that we studied in the book of Daniel chapter 14 with Bel and the dragon. Remember that story? Same Greek word. Same dragon. Okay? With 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, this is a symbolic image. Just like the woman is a symbolic image, which I think points to a reality and to something beyond it. Okay, you with me? Okay, stay with me. Okay, 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 diadems upon its heads. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven. What do stars represent? Remember where we got that idea from? What did Jesus have in his right hand? 7. And what do the stars represent? The angels to the churches. Remember that? Way back in chapter 9, remember it said a star fell from heaven with a key to the bottomless pit? Remember that? What is that star? An angel, fallen angel. You get it? Stars are representative of angels. This is where we get the idea that Satan took 1/3 of the angels with him in his fall. This is the only place in the whole Bible that gives us that idea. This is where it comes from. We don't know really how many fell in the rebellion at the beginning of time, but this is the insight or the symbol, the image that gives us that 1/3 of the angels fell. Okay? Just throwing that out there. Let's keep reading. 1/3 of the stars were cast. His tail swept them from heaven and cast them to the earth. Okay. And the dragon stood before the woman. See, I would love to see this in a movie. Can you imagine this? Can you see this in a movie?
Yeah.
Wow, this would be, talk about drama, Stood before her who was about to bear a child, that he might devour her child when she brought it forth. So you can just see, the woman, about to give birth, and what's standing in front of her? This dragon, ready to what? Devour the child as it gets born. I mean, talk about drama. This is melodrama at its best. Hollywood has nothing on the book of Revelation. She did bring forth a male child who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. Underline that, highlight that, something, because that's a clue to the identity of the male child. Because we've heard that phrase before earlier in this book. Okay? Just note that. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne, and the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God in which to be nurtured for 1,260 days. How long is that? 3.5 years. We've heard that before too, didn't we? Chapter 11. That's how long the witnesses prophesied. 42 months or 1,260 days. I got news for you. We're going to hear this again in chapter 13 because that's how long the beast will reign. This is a symbolic number. This is an important number because it keeps getting repeated. 3.5 years. So a lot's going to happen in this 3.5 year period, whatever it is, whenever it is. Just between us. Oh, the thing went off. See? That's a sign right there. God said, you ain't saying anything. You're nuts. Okay. 1,260 days. Let's keep reading. Keep reading. This drama is too good. We can't stop. Now war arose in heaven. Michael who? The archangel. When was the last time we heard anything about Michael? Say Daniel. Daniel. Remember when we studied the book of Daniel? Michael appeared a couple of times. That was the first time we ever saw him. This is the other time that we hear of him in the book of Revelation. The other time that we know anything about the archangel Michael is in the book of Jude. We're back to the book of Jude again. That's it. It's Daniel, Jude, and Revelation. That's what we know about the archangel Michael. And he is the warrior angel. He is named. You see, the woman is a sign. The dragon is a sign. But Michael is named. We know who that is. Okay? Yes?
So you said that last episode that you just read, you said war came to heaven.
War raged in heaven.
Yeah, so what time period was that supposed to happen?
That's a good question.
What? Because I thought that heaven was perfect and you can't even get in unless you're perfect. So if there's war there, how is it perfect?
No. Yes and no. Let's put it that way. Yes and no. We know from the book of Job, for example, that Satan would come from roaming the earth to the presence of God. We know from the book of Zechariah, he did the same thing there. He would appear in the presence of God to accuse Joshua, the high priest. We know that Jesus said in his ministry, when the apostles went out preaching the gospel, he said, I saw Satan fall like lightning. So Satan has had this access to heaven from the beginning of time. So he dips in and out to do what? Accuse the people of God. That's one of his titles, the accuser. If we think about it in terms of a courtroom scene, he is the prosecuting attorney that works against us before God's throne of justice. God the Father's throne of justice. He stands up and says, this person did this. Can't allow him into heaven. Look what he's done. You know what God says? The Lord rebuke you. That's what Michael will say. The Lord rebuke you. In other words, hush up. You have no place here. Okay? Get a little bit more into that. But let's get this idea of a war arose in heaven. Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. Okay, so that gives you a clue as to what the identity of the dragon is. What do you think the dragon is? Satan. Keep reading. And the dragon and his angels fought, but they were defeated, and was no longer any place for them in heaven. Did you hear that? Yeah. Okay. Amen. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Now stop. This is where we get an identification as to what does the dragon represent. Because before that it was just a sign, right? Who is the dragon? The ancient serpent, the devil, Satan. As if we didn't know that already, you would say, right? But it is here that he is identified. He is given a name. So he is a sign and a real person. A real being. Just like Michael is a real being, right? So, if Michael is a real being, if the dragon is a real being, what about the woman?
Real.
I would argue that she is also a real being and a sign, a symbol for something greater. Because the way that the devil is presented, is he really this seven-headed dragon thing? Possibly. I mean, it's possible. He could have been perverted into some creature like that. But most likely that this is a representative image. This is how God views the fallen angel. This is how he views him. This is his revelation. This is how God is revealing the devil to us. Is that he's a seven-headed, 10-horned, red dragon. This beast, this monster. Okay? Who is also known as the ancient serpent. Now, serpent, where did we last hear about a serpent that plagued a woman? Oh my gosh, are we back in the garden again? Tess, when are we ever going to leave? Right? So this gives us a clue as to the identity of that serpent back in Genesis, right? You see the connection? And again, this is nothing new. We've been hearing all this stuff about Genesis all throughout the book of Revelation, right? The tree of life, the rainbow above the throne of God. See, all of this imagery goes back to Genesis, to the very beginning. Because the Revelation is telling us the opening. It reveals the plan of God from the time we left the garden to the time we're going to go back. Okay? The thread that binds it all is the new covenant. That's what gets us there. It's the new covenant. So we got to keep that in mind. With all this drama going on, we got to keep that in mind. Okay? So, well, if there's time, I'll get down. Let's finish this part. Because now it's getting exciting, right? Are you excited? Thrilled, huh? No one's going to have any nightmares about this dragon and stuff, right? Okay, no, nothing to be afraid of. The devil's all bark and no bite. He really is. It's true. It's all bark, no bite. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to stop there and just move on. I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, "Now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come." Did you hear that? We heard that with the seventh trumpet. We heard it repeated with the woman with the stars as a crown. Now we're getting it again. This idea that God is beginning to rule and reign. Keep that in mind. This is, I think, part of the key of understanding this whole section here. Okay? Power and kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down. Who is that? Satan. Who accuses them day and night before God. Do you hear that? The devil has nothing better to do than stand before God and say, "You know what Chip did? Oh, I heard his impure thoughts. Oh, look what he did now. Oh, he's not paying attention." And how do you put up with it? Why is he a part of your kingdom? I say, give him to me. Right? And you know what? There comes a time when God's down and stick of hearing you, get out of my sight. Because he has no authority to say any of that. You know why? Because God's love and mercy triumphs over sin and Satan. I didn't hear any amen.
Amen.
That said, God's mercy and love triumphs over his hate and accusations. Never forget that. The devil does everything in his power, and not him personally towards you, but you get what I'm saying, right? I've said that before. The devil doesn't bother with us. No. We're small potatoes for the most part. You know what I'm saying? He's after bigger fish himself personally. I know that because I've read church history. He goes after the super saints. He wrestles with people like Padre Pio. You know what I'm saying? He himself goes after the big boys. He leaves us to the minions. We take care of ourselves. Trust me, he goes, I don't even need to send minions. They're just doing fine on themselves. Trust me. So again, don't be afraid. Nothing to be afraid of. Okay? There's nothing to be afraid of. I don't want you to be naive about the spiritual realities around. You realize there are angels and demons all around us listening to this. That blows my mind sometimes. Like, oh, you know, it's a grace of God that we can't see that reality. Can you imagine? I don't want to know. This is good enough to me. A red dragon with 7 heads. I mean, God only knows what's around us. Think about it. Think about it. But not just the evil, but think of the holy angels. All of your guardian angels are here with us. Yes. All of our guardian angels are here with us. And what are they here doing? Keeping all of them at bay. Making sure that you're getting your soul into heaven. That's their job. So make it easier on them. Right? Amen?
Amen.
Stay in a state of grace. You have nothing to fear from the enemy. He's all this and no action. There's nothing to him. He's defeated. He knows it more than you do. Okay? And we're reading it right here. Remember that. Keep reading. And they have conquered him. Who's the they?
The angels have conquered him by the blood
Of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, for they did not love their lives even unto death.